Hello. Welcome to the Empowered Artist Collective podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Apple, a multi-hyphenate actor, educator, acting coach, writer, dog mom, and founder of this vibrant community that champions artists as they carve out their own unique paths in this wild industry. Whether you're just starting out, in the thick of it, or seeking a bit of artistic fuel to expand your toolbox, you're in the right place. In this space, we'll have honest conversations, share actionable strategies, tips, and resources, and delve into the messy yet beautiful journey of living a sustainable, creative life. We unmask the reality of life as an artist, from navigating career highs and lows to nurturing your full human well-being. I chat with women and non-binary guests who share their personal stories, helpful learnings, and hearts to help you unlock your artistic potential, expand your knowledge, and show up fully and fearlessly in your artistry and daily life. Before we dive into this week's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. If today's chat resonates with you, please leave us a review. It helps us reach even more incredible artists just like you. And hey, feel free to spread the love. Share this podcast with a friend or post it on your socials, making sure to tag at Empowered Artist Collective and at @JenniferApple_ so we can chat with you there. All right, grab a cup of something cozy, settle in, and let's get to it. What does it take to sustain a decades-long directing career? In this episode of our Director miniseries, I chat with director and choreographer Marcia Milgrom Dodge, who has been shaping stories on stages across the country for more than 40 years. Marcia shares how she digs into the heartbeat of each piece she does, balancing politics, social consciousness, and community impact with theatrical joy. She opens up about the hardest parts of being a director, the trust and surrender required to let actors carry the work forward, and the importance of staying scrappy and resilient in a freelance career. Marcia reveals her method for typing scripts in their entirety, the ins and outs for doing regional theater, and explains why she sees choreography through the lens of human behavior. Together, we talk about finding your like-minded community, building relationships with writers, and never underestimating your value to a theater community. This episode is a reminder that when you lead with story, community, and heart, the work will always find its way forward. Enjoy. Marcia Milgrom Dodge, welcome to the space.
Thank you for having me. Came at a good time, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm in FOMO from my show at the Muni, so it's the wildest.
Yeah, whirlwind.
Whirlwind, yeah.
Yeah,
So.
and you've been at the Muni a bunch too. Which
This was my 10th. This was my 10th show.
Wild. I cannot wait to unpack all of that. You've kind of already geared us into it. For anybody who does not know you, who are you today?
I am today the director of La Cage aux Folles at the Muni, making history with the first all-black family cast, meaning there's 9 principals, but the 6 cast members who make up the 2 families have never been cast this way historically at a theater that just won the Tony Award,
Yes.
I must say, and be part of the zeitgeist of storytelling now that is essential, meaningful, profound. So I couldn't be prouder. I couldn't be more humbled and more appreciated and accepted into that community, like, of queer artists and just beautiful, diverse human beings. So it's almost a culmination of all the work I've been doing since the beginning of my career.
Yeah.
So it really is a special, just ridiculously profound journey that we just all took together. That's who I am today.
I love it. I love that you're letting yourself soak in the gratitude that I'm hearing from you, the reflective nature of like feeling your whole career before that, like culminating in this gorgeous moment.
Yep.
You know, I think it's sometimes hard for so many of us to recognize the things that we've done and how it's gotten us to where we are. And so I think thank you for sharing that. I think it's really beautiful.
No, I mean, if anybody that knows me or has worked with me knows that it's hard for me to separate my heart from my brain on projects. And I tend to dive deep and fall madly in love for a brief shining moment, to quote a beautiful musical. But, it's how I do it. And this one was an alchemy of a mantra that I hear in the back of my head from Manny Eisenberg when I did Ragtime on Broadway. He said, theater is where I get my politics, my social consciousness, my sense of community, my purpose, all of it. And I never felt it more fully than working on La Cage aux Folles in this moment. I mean, Ragtime aside, because that is always going to be my kind of bar flagship because of its journey that got me to Broadway and all the hoopla that went with that. But in terms of being what I call myself a working dog director, I love to go out there and navigate and wrestle with scripts and texts and find the best way to tell the story in the moment that I'm living in at the moment.
Yeah.
And doing La Cage aux Folles in a purple state, in a theater that 11,000 people gather in a night outside under the stars was protest art. I mean, it was powerful and irreplicatable. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, so where do we go next? We don't go next. The Muni is the Muni.
Yeah.
It's ephemeral. It's fast. It's rigorous in all the right ways, and collaborative and communal. It's so unique and separate from everywhere and every place I work because there's just no drama off stage. It's all on stage.
Yeah, you don't have the time for it. It's too quick.
You have no time. You have to come in. You have to be working, giving us your A game. You have to be prepared. I've said this in many production meetings there. If we're not prepared, we're fucked. And it gets a big laugh, but it's so true.
Yeah.
And we were prepared. We worked our tails off, the creative team and myself. And then once you get into residency there, the company, stage managers, the crew, the dressers. I mean, we had 155 costumes.
Wow.
The Cagelles were changing their costumes to within, life and death stakes. I got to get back out for the can. Zipper be damned. If it's not going to zip, I'm still going out. It's like that kind of energy. And again, alchemy. It's just a combo platter of everything we do and why we do it.
I love it. I love it.
That's where I am right now. Tears are at the ready, just sort of have to let it go.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest thing about being a director. I joke and say there's nothing more useless than a director on opening night because I can't do anything. It's in the hands of other people, theater gods, stage management, sound, dressers, crew, hauling scenery. It's not, I can't do anything. And I learned from watching other directors to sit in your seat. If there's a problem, somebody's taking care of it. You don't have to run up on the stage and scream or have a fit because something went wrong.
Yeah.
Just let it be what it is, which is a living, breathing, beautiful event. So, yeah, you're getting me very emotional.
No, it's good. I'm so here for it, and I just want to invite and hold space for it because I think it's you're naming something so beautiful, and I think especially from a director perspective, I feel like so many actors or performers or artists doing the thing or in the body of the material, in some ways we get the catharsis each night of being in it. And you're naming something really impactful, I think, around the fact that a director is from even before we enter in as performers, you have been with this beautiful beast for a while, envisioning it, and then it comes to life before you, and then you leave. And we all leave it too eventually, but there's something about your journey beginning before and then stopping in essence before ours just begins.
Correct.
And that cadence of grieving the birth of the thing that we all go through as creative human beings, but where your cycle starts and ends, we often forget that is your quote unquote ending because it's usually our performer's beginning.
Right. You take it. So I always think about August Wilson and Lloyd Richards' great relationship, the great playwright, the great director. And I heard Lloyd Richards talk one night on one of those CUNY, CUNY, public access TV, years and years ago. And Lloyd Richards said there's 3 phases that a director goes through. One is sitting with the playwright and knowing nothing and having the playwright know everything there is about the play. Number 2 is once you start working on the play, you become the big know-it-all as the director, because now you're designing it, you're working with the designers, you're casting it, you're putting all the pieces together. The 3rd phase is letting it go to the actors and letting the actors be the big know-it-alls and know everything about the play and leaving you sort of in the dust behind. And I've always believed that, and more so when you're doing something that happens so fast. Yeah. I mean, I did everything I could to be the big know-it-all, but there was no way that I was going to take it to closing night. It would have to go to the company and to the leaders in that company, Michael James Scott and Norm Lewis, who lead with their hearts and lead with a sense of community and belonging and galvanize everybody. And my partner, Ricky Hines, who did the choreography, and all my designers. It was like, no, we have to give it to them, and then they will take it and finish it. Yeah. But
there's a lot of trust.
Yeah. There's a lot of trust, and there's a lot of surrender. Yeah. Surrender, Dorothy. It's like surrender to the process. Yeah. To the fact that you can only do so much, and then it has to be taken over. Yeah. And it's just been a profound journey, and coming at a time in my career, I've been doing this for 46 years, and looking ahead to a quiet fall without going out of town. So I'm trying to navigate family vacation, which I don't think I've ever done in my life. So all my traveling has been for work. Yeah. Even to phenomenal wild places like Denmark and Blackpool, England, and Tokyo, and all over the place. I mean, we've traveled a lot, but it's always been for work. Yeah. So,
well, let's dial it back to the beginning. 46 years is no small feat. Even if you're like 27, even like a decade. Like, I mean, we're talking many decades of work here.
Many decades.
And I'm curious how you found yourself in the directing / choreography lane. I mean, you dabble in all of the above. Yeah. How did you find yourself in that? What for you has been the thing that's kept you going through the many, iterations of this industry, the world? Yeah. How do you keep reinventing?
Well, I'm like Ado Annie. I'm the girl who can't say no. So if somebody asks me to do something, I do it. Yeah. And then I say, oh, shit, now what do I do with it? Right. So I generally do take on everything as an opportunity. You talk about in Stanislavski technique, you talk about obstacles. Yeah. I always see my obstacles as opportunities. So if there's something that I've done before, is it worth me going in and digging in and trying to figure out a new way to do it? If it's something I've never done before, how do I reimagine it for a world today? For example, my Beauty and the Beast that I did at Olney during 2021-22, I reimagined it for a queer plus-size black belle and an amputee who played the Beast. Yeah. And there was never a concern about, will the story be able to handle it? Yeah. So I tend to want to do things that are challenging. Even a show like Secret Garden, which I got in trouble for saying I wrestled with it and that I found it to be a complicated little monster. And you even said that. You said that early on, that we every show you undertake is, you got to dig away, right? Yeah. You got to dig underneath. You got to look for what is the heartbeat of the show. I always want to wrestle with it. I think that's the fun, and any opportunity to do that on any level, from a play to a concert to a full, big ass show at the Muni, it's always going to be, how do I how do I tell that story and make it meaningful for an audience living today? And that goes all the way back 46 years. I worked on Ain't Misbehavin', which was such a gift that, I got to do 10 or 12 productions of that show over the course of several years. And I got to take those ideas and bring it to different communities. So, yeah, I mean, the opportunity I started as a choreographer, and I worked with some significant directors, including Des McAnuff. We did an Elmer Gantry together when he was running La Jolla Playhouse. I worked with Doug Wager, who was the artistic director of Arena Stage. I worked with Bob Falls, who was running the Goodman Theater. I found myself choreographing in the early part of my career in the early 80s when musical theater was just starting to get a foothold in the regionals, because the regionals were really founded to celebrate the classics and American classic plays, and also European plays and British plays. But, so they were doing Oscar Wilde and Shaw and O'Neill and, Tennessee Williams. And so those kinds of plays are what were the lifeblood for the regionals, like Alley Theater, Arena Stage in Washington, Dallas Theater Center, Old Globe Theater. There's a couple that have eluded me. The Old Globe I haven't worked at. But I finally worked at the Guthrie, which really started it all, because they did a Guys and Dolls back in 1983, and all the artistic directors were like, what is this musical? Oh, we could make a lot of money and put it back into it's a nonprofit organization. So they could make money from a big title like that to put back in to help develop the new plays and the off the beaten path kind of projects that they wanted to pursue. So I landed right at the time when theaters like Arena and La Jolla and the Goodman were going, I think I need a choreographer. What is this person? I've never done anything with a choreographer. And honestly, my resume just landed on the desk of somebody very important to musical theater. That was Ira Weitzman when he was at Playwrights Horizons. And Ira would get phone calls from these different theaters, and my resume landed, and I managed to book like hopscotch all over the country early in my career. None of those directors had seen my work.
Wow.
I mean, it was a very different time. It was a verbal recommendation by a respected leader in the musical theater culture. I worked at the Repertory Theater of St. Louis. I did the first regional production of Little Shop of Horrors, which I choreographed. And last year, I directed and choreographed Little Shop of Horrors at the Guthrie. So it was like a
full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah.
And all throughout, I have just jumped around. My New York presence has been minimal. I did some really cool things around that same time in the mid-late 80s. I did Bill Finn's Romance in Her Times at the Public. I did Maltby Shire's Closer Than Ever at the Cherry Lane Theater. I'm now working with Richard Maltby and David Shire on their third in the series of musical reviews called About Time. We just did a workshop production up at Goodspeed at the Norma Terrace. So that's another full circle. They're both in their late 80s.
Yeah.
And Richard's like the Energizer Bunny. He just is so get up and go. I'm like, really? We're going to rehearse at 10 in the morning?
Yeah.
He's up at 7. So I'm like rolling out of bed going, oh shit, I got to get the train. I got to get there. So, it's just been I have a sheet now. I don't do a CV because I figure if they don't know me, then what the hell? So I put together fun facts. So I have this whole sheet now that I send out instead of a resume. And it has really cool things on it. Like I was the first female director hired by the Kennedy Center to direct a major musical.
Wild.
And when I say that out loud, you see me cringe because I couldn't believe it. It was 2009.
Wild.
And women had directed at the Kennedy Center. It's not that they hadn't, but they hadn't been hired by the Kennedy Center. And now that whole beautiful world that gave me so much artistic freedom and support is, who knows, going to be a monster trucks place. Who knows what's going to happen there. But giving Billy Crudup his equity card and getting to work with Jonathan Pryce on a concert of My Fair Lady, just things like that. I just decided I'm just going to throw all that in there.
I love it.
And it has been kind of 6 degrees of separation with this community. The longevity of my career is, kind of crazy. But, George Abbott kept directing into his hundreds. So I'm in no hurry to retire.
No.
And I'm looking to try to develop some of my own projects. I think my one regret might be that I didn't do enough new work. But I was really learning my craft from going into these classic musicals and looking at structure and looking at how to learn from it and navigate what it means to write a musical.
Yeah. Hi, actor friends. Talking to you. If finding the perfect monologue has you feeling stuck, I've got just the thing. I've put together a free monologue selection toolkit just for you. It's packed with resources, free and paid options, plus tips for choosing, editing, and customizing pieces to showcase you. Head over to jenniferapple.net/freebie and stop avoiding the auditions that ask for a monologue or waiting for the perfect piece to simply fall into your lap. Dive into this free toolkit that I set up just for you that'll set you up to feel agency over your process and artistry. That's jenniferapple.net/freebie and get started on finding your next go-to monologue. Well, I'm curious, what is your style then? Like your directing structure, does it change depending on the project? At this point, are you somebody who when you get a script, you do a certain kind of thing, and then at this point in the process, you connect with these things, and then you do this, or in a rehearsal room, you always do? Are there certain things you always do, or at this point, it's like dependent? What is this? What is your how do you do it?
I've always served what I believe. Whatever the story is telling me it needs, then I will do that. Meaning, like this year, I three very different projects. I did Waitress, and I was very inspired by the magic of that story, and I leaned into the magic realism more so than the reality. So it was a very fragmented world. I like to work with essential props and scenery and only put on stage what we really, really, really need. And then I did a Kate Hamill play, a reimagining of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson as women. And that's called Ms. Holmes and Ms. Watson, Apartment 2B. And that was like a farcical, slapstick, wildly comedic, physical rendering of a very familiar and meaningful. I love Sherlock Holmes. So I was like, probably, I don't know, like, I'd be like, Sherlock would never do that.
Like
but it's female
over it.
Sherlock, and it's not him, it's her. So there was a lot of, again, wrestling with how much do I honor the canon, the Arthur Conan Doyle, or do I just go pure Kate Hamill out, balls to the walls and just sort of not worry about it. And I found that there was a way to balance it. And then I did La Cage aux Folles at the most theater with the most traditions of how to tell stories. They have moving scenery and big painted scenic gestures and all sorts of what I would call more old-fashioned musical comedy. And we did not scrimp. We used every tool the Muni had to offer. We incorporated all of the great skills of the painters and the craftspeople there and did the show in a kind of old-fashioned way, even though it was brand new and today, because we set it now and we set it with this Black company. So, each show tells me where to go with it, I studied a lot of different dance styles when I was at Michigan. I went to the University of Michigan and I studied modern dance with Cunningham and Graham and all sorts of, sort of classic modern styles. And when I was working on Waitress, I had little Martha Graham on my shoulder going, ooh, the contraction ballet. We could really go into a Martha Graham kind of storytelling and be truthful. So I just try to keep my tools sharp in my toolkit. And if I haven't used something in a while, imagine what it would be like to use a particular technique on a story and see if it will work. But the story tells me where to go.
Yeah.
And I think of myself choreographically as a behaviorist.
Okay.
I've always thought that. I remember early on in my career, I did a Guys and Dolls at a theater in Massachusetts. And the director said, I'll give you 12 guys for the crapshooter ballet, but I can't promise they can dance. And another choreographer would have been like,
bye.
Forget that.
Yeah.
I need dancers. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do a crap game. We're going to stylize it. We're going to figure it out. But I'm going to tell that story, and I'm going to use all that music, and I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
So it was a great exercise for me, and it ultimately proved to be successful.
Yeah. We had Katie Spellman on the podcast earlier, who was the choreographer for The Notebook, and she was saying, and I'm going to butcher her words about this, but essentially, like, you have to choreograph with who you have in the room. Like, you can ideally envision, like, okay, this is what I want the dance to be. But ultimately, like, you have the artists in the room, and they have beautiful capacities, and it's my job, her words, not mine. Like, it's my job to see them for all that they are and to use that, because that is ultimately going to be the most, it serves the story the most.
Absolutely. I remember I did a production of On the Town way back at Arena Stage, and we were casting, and I knew who I wanted to play Miss Turnstiles, who's the lead dancing role. And the director had a little crush on somebody else who he really wanted to play that role. And I finally said to him, she can't dance well enough. She can't do a 6 o'clock penché. She has to be the fantasy female presence in this story.
Yeah.
I need someone with those skills. I need someone that I can exploit in all these different. She had to do 2 major ballets.
Yes.
And we're not talking just, a 100-bar dance break. We're talking ballets that were written by Leonard Bernstein. So I won. And that was Valerie Wright. She was my Miss Turnstiles. And then the second time I did On the Town, I had Charlotte d'Amboise. So it was like, there are certain roles where, yes, the technique of that dancer is as important as their ability to carry the text and deliver the songs.
Yeah.
And, but Katie's absolutely right. I mean, especially in character-driven storytelling, you want to find how to expand and illuminate their character through gesture and behavior and movement.
Yeah.
And, I like people to look like real people.
Yeah.
I always want that. I always love when that happens, when it feels like they're moving. I remember getting a review once that said, they seem to be moving to the giddy spirits inside them. And I was like, that's what I want. That's what I want to do. I don't want someone in the audience to think they can't do what that character's doing.
Yeah. What would you say are some of the you referenced, like, the toolbox that you have, and I would imagine the toolbox is a quite large toolbox. What would you say are some of the tools that you more frequently, even if the play or musical or project shifts, that you tend to be like, I love working like this, whether it's, there's a certain kind of, analog, whatever that you write in a journal, or whether it's a program that you use on the internet that you're like, this is my spreadsheet that I love. Like, what are maybe some go-tos?
The first thing I do is kind of based on a French breakdown. So I get onto the Excel document. I list all of the actors in the left column. I do all of the scenes and songs. I break them down by, in a French scene, when somebody comes in or leaves the scene, it gives it an ABC kind of thing. And I start with that just to start to get a handle on the characters, especially for ensemble members, if they have to play 2, 3, 4 different characters throughout the course of the evening. I do my own table work, meaning I do my own dramaturgy deep dive. Rarely do I get work with a company who gives me a dramaturg. The only I work with a dramaturg, they always have somebody on staff. But most theaters don't. The Muni, we have no time for table work. We actually did a table read at the Muni for La Cage, which I've only done briefly in one other show, because we just have to hit the ground running. So I tend to do, and sometimes my table work it's 45 pages. What it is articles and glossary and references, and in the case of La Cage, pronunciation guides and things we don't, at the Muni, it's not like a day with dialects, a day with intimacy, a day with, no, we don't have that. We just go. Yeah. So I have tended to start to put those things together. And in some theaters, like beautifully, I had 3 weeks of rehearsal at the Arizona Theater Company. So we did do a couple of days of reading the play and digging in underneath and talking about it and referencing all the stuff that I had put together in my packet. So I love to do that deep dive. It helps me learn the show. Mm-hmm. The other thing I do is I type the script. Okay. Which is a huge undertaking. Yeah. But because I get the word, I copy it. If it's a PDF, I just sit there and I look and I type, and then I have to proof it, make sure I did it right. But I typed the script. Wow. And with La Cage, we were charged with doing the 2009 revival script, but the Muni got permission to do the original Broadway orchestrations. We had an orchestra of 25, whereas the revival only had 14. So I had to mash up the two things, which was exciting.
I love all of these ways that you're naming, and it also in some ways like really feels, and I don't mean it like of aging, but it feels old school in a really good way. It feels like we're going back to basics.
But I'm working on an iPad, which is very exciting. Like I have everything on an iPad now.
I love it.
And I love my cover.
Oh, it's so cute.
And it's so cute, right? And I work in Good Notes. And I was scared to do a musical on it because the score. Yeah. But the beautiful thing about it is I just scribble all over it.
Yes.
So I highlight my stage directions, and I have different color for, like, if I'm having a meeting with my set designer on a Tuesday, whatever, I work in a different color. So I remember that was a different day. Yeah. And I just love it. And I did it on La Cage. I also did the score. Amazing. And I wrote all my notes about open boom one at this measure of music and all of that preparation for, we kind of paper tech the whole show before the first day of rehearsal. Wow. Which is, the stage manager basically spends her time creating the call script, and she doesn't read music, so she translates all of that into counts. Yeah, it's wild.
I'm curious for you, because so much of your work has been regional. Do you have like a slew of associates or assistant directors that you work with? Or is it more like because you're working at these regional houses, they have their own people that they're providing you?
I've worked for a long time with Josh Walden. Josh, I met when they were at NYU and worked with me there, was in a show, and then became my associate on many shows. And so Josh has always been my go-to. But Josh has a beautiful career directing and choreographing their own work. And when the stars align and we can be together. But Josh was on my journey with Ragtime. Josh was on my journey with Seussical. Just a slew of stuff. The Muni... a lot of times Mike puts teams together. Mike Isaacson, who's the producing artistic director there. And I'm always happy with in Jewish, there's a word called shidduch, which is when an arranged marriage, right? Yeah. So I'm always happy when Mike makes a shidduch with me and a new artist. Yeah. So for example, with La Cage, Ricky J. Hines was my choreographer and did extraordinary work, made a very auspicious Muni debut. And we've loved working together. And he brought Josh Zacher, who was his associate, and I had been talking with Nathan Peck, who became the second assistant associate choreographer, but pretty much hung out with me. So that was my team, plus a directing intern, which they always find really smart young people who are either in school in some kind of directing program or about to graduate or have just graduated. And this year I had Tucker DeGregory, and he was fantastic. So I have a little group of people that I can call on. I'll be honest, the regionals don't offer SDC contracts for associates all the time. Some do, some don't. If I'm choreographing and directing, I make sure I have a really strong dance captain and usually engage them in some kind of assisting capacity. I've also taken advantage of the SDC Foundation professional development opportunities. I was actually the first observer.
Love it.
Back in 1980.
Wow.
So I am very fond of giving young directors and choreographers opportunities. And my mantra is, you can observe me or you can roll up your sleeves and help me.
Yeah.
So it just depends the personality of the person. I've had people who I've hired as an observer, and then they've become a paid assistant on future projects. So
Amazing.
It just depends, Yeah. But I've been doing that for a long time.
Have you been using the same monologue for years? Are you gearing up to apply for BA, BFA, or MFA programs and need pieces for that process? Or maybe you just have no idea where to even start with monologue hunting? I get it, and that's why I offer monologue sourcing. This is a unique process where I find monologues chosen specifically for you. So many artists pick pieces based on external labels like type or for roles rather than finding material that represents who they truly are. So here's how it works. We'll meet virtually and you'll share all about who you are, your passions, values, beliefs, and everything in between. Don't worry, I will help guide you through this process. Then I'll get to work finding monologues that fit you like a glove. With years of experience sourcing pieces for hundreds of artists, I've seen the difference it makes to have a monologue that genuinely feels like you. So, if you want to feel empowered about the monologues you bring into rooms and use for auditions, I would love to help you find them. And because you're a listener of the Empowered Artist Collective podcast, I'm offering an exclusive rate. Head to empoweredartistcollective.com/podcast promo to register and claim the special offer. That's empoweredartistcollective.com/podcast promo. I cannot wait to help you find monologues you absolutely adore. In the fact that you are a freelance director and you are being hired by so many different organizations around the country and the world, how does that hustle work for you? At this point now, everybody knows who you are, but at least when you were, like the regional of it is also very different than, say, like being a New York baby and you're doing the thing here in this insulated city. How did you manage that? How are you still managing it?
Well, my path was very unique for me at the time. And I never was anyone's associate. So I was out hustling. My full-time job has been and always will be looking for work.
Yeah.
And once I book something, it's not that I'm done. It's that it's a new way. It's like, okay, I don't have to look for work for the next 6 months, whatever. Yeah. But I'm always looking for work. And that means reinvigorating my connections, dropping a line to a theater artistic director who I haven't been there for a few years and saying, hi, just letting you know, love you. I'd love to come back.
Yeah.
But I can't, and I very rarely have been, almost never have I done a show and the day after opening has a artistic director said, so what do you want to do next year? That never happens. I'm always waiting for the phone to ring.
Yeah.
And that's getting harder as I get older.
Yeah.
You know, the hustle part of it, my father was a head of sales for a family business, and tell them who you are and toot your own horn. And it's cute when you're 30. When you're 70, it might not be as cute, right? Yeah. So I just hope the news spreads of my work and makes people want to check me out, right?
Yeah.
I hope the Lacage buzz makes it back east,
Yeah.
and that people, reach out and say, I want somebody who could do that,
Yeah.
do this at my theater.
Yeah.
But honestly, I go back to my usual haunts. I go to Maltz Jupiter Theater. I have a show booked for fall of 26 there. Riverside Theater in Vero Beach, Florida is going to produce one of my husband's plays.
Amazing.
And I'm probably going to stay on and direct a big musical for them in 2027.
Yeah.
I just made a new relationship with an opera company in Colorado, and we are talking about me directing an opera, which I'm really excited because I've worked in opera companies, in significant opera companies like Glimmerglass, New York City Opera, but I've done musicals.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I did The Music Man in both of those places.
Wow.
With opera singers.
Wow.
So wild. Talk about design your choreo to their strengths, right? I was working with opera singers on a classic musical comedy in both of those venues. But we're talking about possibly doing Masterclass, Terrence McNally's beautiful play about Maria Callas at Central City Opera next summer in the hills of Colorado in an opera community, a play about the great Maria Callas. So I'm, it's a new connection for me. I mean, the Disney parade came about because it was the shutdown, and my really good friend Brad Kay, who's a creative director at Disney, was pitching to be the creative director for the parade that was going to launch in 2023. And he called me up and he said, I need some help and I'll pay you. And I'm like sitting in my apartment going, okay.
Yeah.
It was 2020 and we did a big pitch and he booked it. And then he said, you're coming with me to Tokyo. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? And he goes, we figured out what my role would be. It was kind of a creative guide for the Japanese team. And I brought in all these beautiful choreographers that I wanted to infiltrate their default kind of choreography that they do. And it was one of the most amazing experiences. And I was like, I'm in Tokyo directing a parade.
Yeah.
And how old am I? And what am I doing? And it's like wild, right? It was wild. So thank you, Brad. And that was just a magical time too.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is there's a couple things at play, which is one, again, like naming the fact that the director life is a freelance life, and that there is no guarantee, just like for a performer, there is no guarantee about, what's to come on the bottom line of it. And then I'm also hearing the hustle part of it and how strong that is for you and how that's arguably sustained your entire career despite the highs and the lows of that. And I would imagine that so many folks who have been in your orbit know that hustle, and that's why they also respond to it. And you're naming the relationship part of it, which is like arguably like the whole entire point of what we do, which is you have these relationships.
I met Brad doing my very first show in the early 90s. And we kept in touch over the years, but we're talking about 30 years later, I'm working with him at Disney.
Wow.
This is what I say when I'm teaching is be nice to everybody because you never know. You just never know when that's going to come back, right? As someone, when I speak to actors and I say, go in the room, don't expect everybody to shake your hand and be your best friend. Just go do your work. They want to see you do your work, but be nice and kind to everybody. The person at the door could be, the next Kevin McCullum. So just be nice to everybody, right?
Exactly.
And Brad and I just had a great time. We did a Kismet at Music Circus in Sacramento. And we did a How to Succeed at Reprise in Los Angeles. And then in 2020, he calls me.
I love it. I love it.
It was like, it was great.
No, it's amazing. And for the lifestyle of it, because not everybody is,
well,
I would say.
I'm a very lucky person. I have a beautiful husband, Tony Dodge, who when we decided we wanted to be parents, he was an actor. We came to New York together. I booked more than he did. And it was a frustrating time. And But then we decided to be parents, and we were like, well, how are we going to do that? And he's like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad. I'm going to do that. I want to do that. And so until my daughter started kindergarten, they traveled with me everywhere.
Yeah.
And then once kindergarten came around, they came and joined me when they could. But so that the day that Natasha went to college, he was in DC, and he called me. I was in Cincinnati, and he said, I can't go home to that empty apartment. And since then, he's been traveling with me. And he's a playwright, and he's writing, and he can write from anywhere. And so, and he also takes really good care of me when I'm out of town, So we just have a really special, we're going to be married 45 years this year.
Wow. It's like, it's your whole career.
So it's everything. Yeah. So we came together, in the late 70s, and we've just been together and navigating all of these experiences. And, if I travel abroad, I'm like, I'm bringing my family. There's no negotiation. They're coming with me. So our daughter and he have come to Denmark and Blackpool and South Korea.
You're naming, this support system of it all. Obviously, yours is in like a marriage relationship. But I think there's something really to be named around the fact that what we do is really hard and it's unconventional for many, many folks. And to know where and with whom you can lean on, rely on, communicate with, cry to, or on, I think to know those things and not feel like that's a burden, because the people who love you want to be there to support you in that way.
Natasha called us when she, after her first semester at college, and said, thank you. We were like, what the fuck? She said, I just love the way you raised me. I love that I've had all these different experiences and I've gone to different places. She was meeting a lot of people who were much more sedentary in the sense that they came from homes where they didn't do that, right? The dad worked a 9-to-5 job, or the mom did, and they were always in one place, and they did vacations and things. But she was like,
different.
Yeah, it was different, and it never burdened her. It wasn't like I had to explain how weird my parents are because they're always, doing shows. And when Ragtime was running at the Neil Simon Theater, Tony and Natasha were in the box seat almost every night. They just were like, let's go second act it. Let's go.
It's so special.
So to have that, and all my work at Bay Street Theater was as my daughter was growing up, and, building relationships out there with Julie Andrews and her daughter Emma and their son-in-law Steve and all those people. It was just part of our life. And she would say, Can we bring Stella to Sag Harbor? And we're like, yeah, bring Stella. And we'd all pile up on a jitney and go out there. And so it was like, it just wasn't, it was our normal, which to my parents back in Michigan and Detroit was like, you're not normal. And it's like, no, this is our normal.
Correct.
Your normal is not my normal. I don't want to do that. Right?
Exactly. Yes.
So I don't know. The definition of normal is whatever it means to you and your unit, your family, your community. So
I love that. I'm curious for anybody who is either already in the directing path and lane of it and like hitting a block, or people who are like, I'm wanting to pivot out of whatever part of this industry I've found and I'm trying to direct a bit more, or I'm actually going on the directing path and I'm young and I'm vivacious and excited about it. For anybody who is entering in whatever way they're finding it, but they're going down the directing path, what would be your like starter kit or things to think about or recommendations?
Find the people writing the material on the stories you want to tell and get in on the ground floor with them and build those relationships so that you can be the future, right? So, and do it anywhere. I always say, if you have a story to tell and it's burning a hole in your psyche and your heart, find a place to do it and tell it. I mean, honestly, it's scrappy. Like, I think you still have to be scrappy. There's a wonderful company here in New York, Out of the Box Theatrics, and Liz Fleming runs it. And everything I've seen down there is is passion in a plank, right?
Yep.
There's not a lot of money, but it looks like $1 million because everybody's there because they really want to be. And a young protege of mine is directing and producing and getting things up in a way that they can. And, you know, if you have access to finances that are available to you, take advantage of it and figure out how to put them where it means something. But I would encourage people to find that community of people who share the same aesthetic and desires that you have and want to cultivate in this world through your art, through your theater art, and do it. That's all I can say. And if you love something that's going on at a theater, and you know, in your hometown, and you want to meet the artistic director, go knock on their door. Mm-hmm. I'm the daughter of a salesman. I was like, I did this with Andrew Cato at the Maltz Jupiter Theater. This was back in 2007. I knocked on the door. They were auditioning at Chelsea Studios. The auditioner came out. I said to the monitor, "Give me a minute." I went in and I said, "Where's Andrew Cato? I'm Marcia Milgrom Dodge and I want to direct at your theater." The next day he took me to breakfast. He said, "I don't have a musical, but I have a play." I went, "I'll do it." I did my first play with him in 2008, Terrence McNally's Masterclass. I was already in pre-pro for Ragtime, so Terrence came to the opening night. I mean, it was like, I could be good
circle
for you. Like, I need a job from you, but I could also be good for you. Yeah. So don't underestimate your ability to be important and essential to whatever theater company or producing entity that you want to be a part of. And don't be afraid to toot your own horn, but as long as you can back it up, right? Yeah. So, and the only way to back it up is to get the experience, and the only way to get the experience is to be doing it. So it's kind of a catch-22.
Catch-22, yeah.
You know, I mean, as I say, I landed in New York at a time when they were looking for a choreographer, and I was like champing at the bit. I was like, I'll do it. So I was the one, and then they talked to each other. Yeah. Bob Falls talked to Doug Wager, and Doug Wager talked to Des McAnuff. It is a game of operator, right? Yeah. And as long as you can back up the introduction with the work and do meaningful work. I also learned a lot from a director I worked with early in my career, Stan Vyavotsky. He was so inspiring. I did a production of She Loves Me at Baltimore Center Stage with a cast that included Stephen Bogardus, Diane Fratantoni. It was like this crazy. I remember taking my pillow on the train because I was like, and he said, we did a brown bag lunch with subscribers one day during a preview, and he invited me, and they asked questions. Why did you bring all these people from New York? And Stan's answer was, I want to give you the best possible production, and I want the best people. Not to say that they don't exist, and they do more now locally in all these theaters that I work at. There's a much bigger local presence
for sure
of talent. But back then in the late 80s, there wasn't. And the only way to get the A-plus people with the Broadway credits was to go to New York and cast and bring them. But he always said, I want to make the best theater for you. I'm not trying to do this so we can go to New York. I'm doing this for you. And I took that with me. So every community I work in, I try to understand the demographic of that community, whether it's economic or racially or politically or whatever, and make sure my story will land the way I'm telling it will land for their benefit.
I love it.
So I have not been unaware of the different communities that I work in.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all of this here and for going on this journey.
Absolutely.
I am so grateful.
Yeah. I'm on a truth serum today.
I love it. No, it's good. It's really, really good. And I mean, that's why this space exists, like I'm connecting and hoping to, talk to folks who have been in it in all sorts of capacities and for them to shed their experience and light into the ways in which we can all be a part of this ecosystem and really kind of demystifying the there is no one right way. There's so many ways and just finding your access point, but hearing from people who have done it in all sorts of ways to give you the inspiration to keep hustling through. And so thank you for anybody who wants to hire you or reach out and ask questions or find you. What within your boundaries is the best way for people to do so?
So on Instagram, I'm trying to post as much as I can on at Marcia Milgrom Dodge. Mm-hmm. And then if you want to email me, directingmusicals@gmail. So that's my handle for Gmail. And I have a website. It's myname.com. And it just links you to, it doesn't have my whole panoramic 45-page career on there, but it does have links to my YouTube if you want to watch some videos, some B-roll from the shows and interviews and things like that.
I love it. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jennifer. So nice.
That's it for today's episode. I hope you walk away with some fresh insights, feel inspired, and a little more empowered to take the next step on your artistic journey. Remember, whether it's a small shift or a big breakthrough, every step forward counts. You've got this, and we're here cheering you on every step of the way. If you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to hit subscribe so you'll never miss out on the discussions we have each week. And if something today really resonated with you, please leave us a review. It truly is one of the best ways to help other artists find our podcast and join in on the conversations. Plus, we feel the love too when you do. And don't keep all this goodness to yourself. Share this episode with your people or post about it on social media. Be sure to tag at Empowered Artist Collective and at @JenniferApple_ so we can see what's landing for you and keep the conversation going. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being a part of this incredible community. Keep creating, keep thriving, stay empowered. I'm Jennifer Apple. Until next time.